Hi, everybody. And today I am excited to be talking to Bryce. And welcome, Bryce. Good morning. It's Monday after Thanksgiving when we are recording this. And, even though we had the lovely intro, it would be great for if you can tell us a little bit more about what it is that you're doing right now and you are in charge of right now.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was great to meet you prior to recording. I know we had a lot of things in common, so it's fun to be on the podcast with you today. And I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a mom to two girls. We have a boy dog to try to level the playing field. My husband and I have been married for 18 years, which seems insane.
Wow.
And the better part of my career, I've been doing recruiting for the AEC industry, which is architecture, engineering, and construction, and heavier in the A&E side, architecture and engineering. And it's funny, my husband is also in that field as well. But I met my business partner many years ago. We worked for the same firm for 12 years and then decided we could do it better, to be honest. And we had in mind a culture that we wanted to create. So 2 years ago, we joined forces and started Career Collective, and we have a Raleigh office and a Tampa location as well.
Amazing. Awesome. So 2 years ago, you went from being working for somebody else to being a company owner. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So my business partner, his name is Edwin. We were both working for this other firm. I guess it was 2021. So after COVID. So like most people, I did a lot of thinking during COVID, had a lot of time to think about my career and what I wanted next, and just did not see a lot of possibilities where I was. It was a small company. They wanted to keep it small, which meant less growth opportunities for me. So I started interviewing, and that's kind of how it started. I got a really great offer with another small company and was highly considering it. And Edwin and I kept talking. He's like, look, if you're going to leave and do this, you and I should just join forces and, take a stab at it. I had owned a company previously.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, I guess. But, at this stage in my life, I have kids, I'm paying for their school. I have a lot, bills to think about. So it was a bigger risk. But one I'm really glad that I took. And it's funny, my husband left his job at the same time. We're like, we're nuts. What are we doing? But luckily it has worked out. And he went back to work for a firm that he had previously worked for. But same kind of thing, we just talked a lot about what we want next. And we were kind of at that stage in our careers. I mean, I'm 44. So at the time, 41, when I was considering making this change, and like, I'm not getting any younger, so may as well do it now.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage, especially as you're talking about, having kids, school, house, all the things, that
Yeah.
add up quickly. And on top of that, your husband as well. So when did you get the clarity? Like, how did you get the clarity? Yes, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
thing
think
or
it took
take
too
that.
long. Yeah, it was a lot of talking with my husband, who was super supportive, and then talking to my business partner now, and us just starting to strategize on what we wanted the company to look like. And then all the numbers, how much we could afford to pay ourselves from the very beginning, what we wanted the culture to look like. And then we just started taking one step at a time. And he moved to Raleigh because I have a family here. So he came from Colorado at the time, drove across country and made the move. But just taking those baby steps, because in the beginning it is a lot. We hired a lawyer, you're filing, articles of incorporation, but just figuring out one step at a time. He came down and we found an office space. We were in a co-working space for the first year and a couple of months until we found a great sublease that we're in now. But just taking it one step at a time.
And then you said you had another offer at the same time.
I
Uh,
did, yeah. So I was, I knew I was going to leave. It was just a matter of, am I going to take this offer? And eventually there was the aspect or the opportunity to potentially be an owner of that company, or am I just going to go ahead and outright be an owner now, and take another stab at entrepreneurship? So that's the route I decided to go, and just bet on myself, do what I, did well. And I will say Edwin and I both were always vying for the number 1 and 2 spot at our company. So we know recruiting. We knew we could do the job. So then it was just a matter of teaching everyone else and running the business.
Okay. So what was that kind of the tipping point, like that one light bulb or um decision-making point where you said, okay, this is why I'm gonna go for it versus take the other offer?
Yeah, I don't think it was like one light bulb moment, it was just a lot of talking to my husband, talking to Edwin, weighing the pros and cons. And then, you have to deliver bad news. I had to let that person know I wasn't taking the offer. I had to put my notice in with my company. So, it was a lot of hard decisions in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's just an inner peace, I think, knowing after having all these conversations that this is what I want to do. And I felt really good about it.
Okay, so no matter kind of amidst of all the kind of like what you said, hard decisions, you felt that inner peace and knowing, despite, I'm sure there were, stresses about
Oh,
income,
yeah.
all the other aspects and expenses, but you had that underlying knowing,
Mhm.
guidance or inner peace.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
So take us maybe a little bit back, right? Maybe more to the beginning of your career. How did you get into recruiting?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I went to NC State. So I had lived in Raleigh, for school, and I'm glad to be back now. And right after school, my husband and I now, we were dating at the time. We met senior year. We moved to Florida. He has a landscape architecture degree. And we said, these are the cities we want to live in. We were both born and raised in North Carolina, so we're ready to try something new. Um, so we moved to Fort Lauderdale. He got a really great job, and I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I started off in textiles at NC State and then switched to business management and marketing. So I'm like, really, I could do anything. And I figured I'd probably do something sales adjacent. And I did sell real estate for a while and I really enjoyed it. But I went back to school, and I don't suggest doing this. I went and got my MBA while I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. But I met a friend when I was in school, and she said, I'm working for this recruiting company. They're recruiting for architects and engineers. She's like, isn't that what your husband does? I said, yes. She's like, you should just come work with me. It's going to be great. We'll make a lot of money. I was like, all right, well, I don't know what else I want to do, so I'll give it a shot. And then I ended up being there for 12 years. The company, the partners split, the company changed names. We had a Fort Lauderdale office that closed. And then I had been there, I don't know, 5 years, and said, we're going to move back to North Carolina. He said, that's fine. You can work from home. And then I opened a Durham office for a while. And then we closed that when, the economy changed a bit. So I was recruiting even in 09 when things were really tough.
Mhm.
No one was hiring. So got through that. And then that's when I left, when I had my first daughter. But then after that, a little break and owning my own business for a while, went back to recruiting.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
okay. So even with the first business that you owned, it was a recruiting company.
No, I owned a retail store. So back
Oh,
to my roots in textiles, at NC State. Yeah, I owned a clothing store online, and then I had 2 locations. Um, but recruiting is what I know and what I do best. And so closed those stores, went back to recruiting, and now, now here I am.
yeah. So what what would you say in terms of like when somebody is successful in their job, right? Like you were and you worked for a company, when you for, consecutively for years, and then they come to kind of similar decisions, right, to make about next steps. Maybe not exactly the same, but right, they have something that they want to grow, they want to do something bigger, but they are not exactly sure what next step to take. What kind of thought process or methodology or any kind of, maybe from what you went through, would you recommend, that people can apply, maybe questions, or, that they can ask themselves or walk through themselves to get some clarity?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things you can try. But I think it takes getting quiet first and really getting to know yourself and what you want. So whether that's journaling or meditating, or if you're like, neither one of those are for me, just walking, and not listening to anything and just thinking about what those next 3 years look like, what the next 5 years look like, and thinking about what you really want and who you want to be, I think answers a lot of that. And then you can start from there, you can start experimenting and, that reading books, listening to podcasts. I love podcasts, so I listen to a lot of them as well. But there's so much good information out there. So if you have questions on things, you can get those questions answered. And then start talking to people who have done what you want to do or something similar. And then just start trying different things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's like the tiniest little baby step that you're trying first, and that's fine. And then you can redirect from there. You can always redirect, but it's easier in the beginning when you're just taking those baby steps.
Mm-hmm. And I know you said you talked a lot, right, with your husband, with your future, business partner, but you're mentioning now walking, taking space, right, journaling. What from those more introspective tools, right, has served you the most, kind of in your thought?
Yeah, well, so I got my career coaching certification during COVID. So I honestly feel like that is what sparked all of it for me. Yeah, really tapping into, meditation and journaling and paying attention to my vibration and my energy. And so not to be like too woo-woo, but
No.
those were things I had never really thought about before. And then the power of manifestation, knowing what you really want. So whether it's setting goals, because I do feel like manifestation comes from that. So I had a Pinterest board, just a private board that I would look at every day. Like, these are the things I want. These are the things I'm going after, and keeping it at the forefront of my mind. So
So
that was
you
helpful.
can you share what was on your board?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back, a lot of things just to do with like how I wanted to show up, for my kids and my business, all of those things, places I wanted to travel, things I wanted to do with my home. Um, and then as a business owner, what we wanted to achieve.
Mhm.
And then because on the hard days, you're like, well, why am I doing this? What am I working so hard for? And so it's so easy to just go back and look at all those pictures like, okay, this is why I'm doing the hard work. And then it's fun to look back and be able to check those things off. Oh, I did accomplish this. And
Mhm.
I accomplished this. In our business this year, we had a big goal for where we wanted to be revenue wise, and we hit it right before Thanksgiving. So I felt really good about that. So now we're setting goals and dreaming about what we want next year, how many people we want to grow to, what we want our revenue to look like. So it's goal setting, but it's also allowing yourself to dream and dream big. I think as women, especially, we can really limit ourselves. Like, okay, I only think this is possible, so I will only dream this big. But
Mhm.
allow yourself to dream bigger and think, the possibilities are endless.
Mhm. And so you had there were a couple of things I was thinking as you're talking when you went for your career coaching certification. Was that like what prompted that? Was it a
Uh,
little bit of
this
your
is before I decided to open Career Collective, and I was looking for a new position as well. Kind of, I was looking a little bit, but the one offer I got, someone kind of brought that to me and made that connection for me, which I'm big on, having people help you make those connections, not just applying online, which is what's so great about working with a recruiter. Um, I'm totally just lost what you asked
Oh, no,
me.
no. I was asking, I was just thinking when you kind of the time frame, the 2020
Oh, the coaching. Yes.
career coaching, was it a little
Yeah.
bit of your own kind of looking for answers that prompted that, or kind of
I
what?
did, yeah. So that goes back to a podcast I was listening to, and she was talking about coaching. And again, I was on a walk outside listening to a podcast, and
Mhm.
I was like, I could do this. And this, for me, I thought it made sense. I could see the thread from recruiting to career coaching. So I got certified. But it kind of, like I said, led me on this journey of doing all these other things, not just learning about coaching, because I feel like as a coach or a business owner, like you can only grow to the degree that you have your own personal growth. So
Mhm.
I was definitely on a personal growth journey
Yep.
to become a coach, and then before opening the business or deciding to leave my current job.
Mhm.
And now we do offer coaching as well, so it's been fun to be able to do both.
And did you, when you kind of were your previous job, making kind of the decision on the next steps, were you questioning, like, or did you feel like you always felt the draw to recruiting and kind of you knew you wanted to stay in within, that industry or business, or did you ever get to points where you were questioning, is this for me?
I never got to the point where I was questioning if recruiting or coaching were for me. Maybe coaching in the beginning because it was something I hadn't done. So
Mhm.
there was definitely that feeling of being outside of my comfort zone. And I felt like for a long time I was just living out of my comfort zone all the time. Um, and maybe it was fear-based, saying, these are the things I know, so I'll stay kind of in this world.
Mhm.
Honestly, that is where I felt comfortable, but I also knew it was what I loved to do and I had done it well. And so I wanted to continue doing, something at least adjacent to that.
Okay. Okay. Because the reason I ask, many times people might have career, right? 10, 15 years in a field, but they find that something about it is not quite, it's draining them, right? They've gotten, high level of proficiency, right? They can do it, but then at some point of time they realize that their resume is full of things that they never cared to do again.
Right.
So given that you went also through career coaching, what would you be your advice when somebody finds themselves in that situation?
Yeah, I think again, to get quiet and really think about what you want first. And I've always worked with a coach, so finding a good coach you can work with and that you feel like you mesh well with. Because I will say when we started the business, it was very stressful, and having a coach helped me a lot.
Mhm.
Uh, so finding somebody you can work with is great, but if you're doing it on your own, I think those same things like getting quiet, journaling, um, reading books, listening to podcasts to decide what you want to do next, and then trying it out. I started doing some coaching on the side when I was still working for my full-time employer. So
Mhm.
I was testing it out to see if I liked it. And when I started coaching, I was told talk to everyone and then see who you want to work with.
Mhm.
See who resonates with you, who you feel like you can help the most. Work
Mhm.
with people for free in the beginning. So I feel like everything is kind of an experiment or a test. And then you can decide from there, okay, these are the people I feel like I can help. These are who I enjoy working with the most. And
Mhm.
of course, that can change over time.
Mhm.
But I think if you're in a career and you're finding yourself feeling stuck and you don't want to do it anymore, well, all your prior experience is not a waste by any means. I
Mhm.
do feel like there's a lot of common threads um, from one job to another. So
Mhm.
look at those skills that you have and how you can transfer those to another job, another position, and the things that you really enjoy doing, which are typically the things that you do well, and how you can do them in a different field.
Mhm. Do you like or recommend any tests, like to understand yourself better and your kind of your strengths, like the strength finder or, alike?
Yeah, I think that can be really helpful. I like to give those to my clients when I'm coaching, and now when we're hiring, we give some tests as well, just to see where people land, how they work best and what environment, doing, what task.
Mhm.
I love the Enneagram. I'm not certified in Enneagram, but I absolutely love it.
You prefer it? And how do you like, so I know what you're talking about. Sometimes with it, I've I've struggled a little bit with applying it to professional, kind of. Well, I mean, there are themes, but like feel like it's a little bit more, I don't know, high level or generic, right? Or
Mhm.
how, kind of what do you recommend that people take from Enneagram that they can actually apply to, direction of their career?
Yeah, I like to use Truity, which is online. You can, if you're a coach or an employer, you can buy tests to give to potential hires or clients, and they have an Enneagram for the workplace.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I think that's really interesting. I mean, I'm a 3, so I'm very driven. I'm goals
I can
oriented.
tell. Yeah,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to achieve. Yes, I will get annoyed if people try to interrupt me when I'm working on a task. So
Mhm,
knowing things like that about yourself, I think are really helpful. You can say like, nothing against you, but this is how I work best. And so if I'm in the middle of something, please don't interrupt me, ping me, we'll set up a time to talk or something like that, or, whatever it may be. That's just an example. But you can know how you work best, and you also will know where your blind spots are,
mhm.
which I think is really important. One test we use for people that we're hiring, which I think is great, is the DISC assessment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so that one, and then any sort of strengths finders too, to just know what your strengths are, because sometimes it's so hard, and I'll say, ask people that you're friends with, ask your parents or coworkers, where you really excel, because normally people can tell you, and sometimes it's hard for you to articulate that yourself.
Mhm.
What am I good at? Or if you're having a really down time, you're like, I don't know what I'm good at. So I think
Yeah.
it's important to have other people speak that into you as well.
So it's kind of you recommend a combination, not necessarily just one, but especially if you want to get really clear and be able to communicate and articulate, because it's funny, just because you're good at your job, like especially when you look for something else, it's like a completely different skill set to be able to verbalize, right? And communicate
Right.
across.
Yeah. And you want to make sure that translates on your resume too. You can tailor your resume to different positions you're applying for. And that's why I was saying, make those connections, network, have other people open the door for you, because I just don't believe the spray and pray method works.
Yeah,
Just applying to as many things
applying.
as you can and see if you get a hit. It's much easier if you find a job you're interested in, or even a company you want to work for. You tailor your resume to that, and then you connect with people on LinkedIn who work there, who can open those doors for you. And then, from there, hopefully you'll get an interview.
Mhm. So what's your recommendation, right? Okay, somebody does the test, right? Gets clear on their strengths, right? And how it applies to a specific job, but let's say it's outside of what they've done for the last 8, 10 years, or the direct function, right? That they've been a part of. And sometimes it's easier to make the switch internally, but like, what if that's not either an option, or, like if a person wants to transfer functions, right, or roles in also industries, which sometimes can be more challenging and harder,
Mhm.
um, what what would be the key, key advice or key points that they should follow for
Yeah, so a
change?
lot of people won't like this advice, but we see this within our with our industry that we recruit for. if you're looking to make a pretty big jump and a company is willing to take the chance on you, then you might have to start as a beginner. You might have to start entry level. You might have to take a pay cut in the beginning, and then you can prove what you can do in that new role. That's if you're trying to really jump from one industry to the next.
Mhm.
Um, if you have someone who can vouch for you, like I was saying earlier, who can make that connection for you, and you're able to show it in your resume and then explain it and demonstrate it in an interview, you probably have a greater chance of maintaining maybe the same level. But again, if you're making a huge switch, for instance, with us, if someone has worked as a mechanical engineer
Mhm.
for years and now they want to switch into structural engineering,
Mhm.
well, you don't know structural engineering. You're going to have to go back to the basics, and you might have management experience, but you don't have any experience designing structures.
Mhm.
You've only been designing HVAC, mechanical, plumbing. So you're going to have to start as a beginner, which means you're going to have to take less money.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And can you talk about like what has been the biggest shift, right? I know you did it before, right? You said you had retail locations, but like, after going back to recruiting, right? And then now being an owner, right? Starting your own business. What have been the biggest mindset as well as kind of the day-to-day shifts that you had
Mm.
to make, how you show up and in what you do, going from being an employee to an employer?
Yeah, I felt like I got some practice as an employee because I worked so autonomously. I was working from home for years, and I
Mhm.
was a top producer, and I was able to stay dedicated and disciplined.
Mhm.
My kids were at school, and so I'm like, I have the full day to work from home. No one's distracting me. So, I wanted to do the best that I could, but that's an internal driver for me. That goes back to the Enneagram 3. Like, I want to achieve. I don't need someone telling me these are the numbers you need to hit. This is what you need to do, because I'm already telling myself that, and I'm applying more pressure to myself than any boss could.
Mhm.
So in that way, nothing changed. But I think the biggest thing is to continue that personal growth and development, because it's not just me anymore. We have a team of 17 people. We're hoping to grow that to 30 people in 2024. So now, I have all these people in my care. So I want to keep leveling up. I want to keep developing myself. I want to keep growing so I can help them grow. For me, I had never managed people before. Like I said, I worked from home. I was just managing myself. So
Mhm.
I can drive myself, but I have to figure out what motivates my team and how to drive them.
Yes.
So we do a lot of one-on-ones every other week now. Um, and we're good about asking, what motivates them, and then hopefully offering those things. And then, we've got a director of operations, and she's helpful in staying in touch with them, seeing kind of when they are going off the rails so we can correct the course.
Mhm.
But I think for me, it's just maintaining personal development and growth. I'm part of a mastermind that I've been in all this year. Hope to continue that again next year. I think being in the room with those people who are doing what you want to do is super helpful, and having somebody who's run a business before and can zoom out and look at yours is really helpful.
Mhm. And do you like when you hire for your own team, do you use any personality assessment tools?
It depends on the position. For the recruiters, we're not as much.
Mhm.
We feel like we have really gotten down who we want to hire as
Mhm.
far as the recruiters go. And typically it's someone who has recruiting experience, who's got, pretty good job stability. And then somebody who's humble and eager to learn, because even if they come from a different sales background, if they're humble and want to learn, then we can teach them.
Mhm. Mhm.
We have a lot of people who were prior athletes.
Yeah.
I find those make really great salespeople
Mhm.
because they're driven and they want to do well. They're
Yeah.
competitive, which helps in recruiting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can see that. And have you found that your clients, right, companies that you recruit for, right, that are looking to hire, how often do you see them using the assessment tools, like different, whether it's DISC or Strength Finders or something else?
Yeah, sometimes they will use those tools. They don't talk to us as much about that because we're vetting those candidates that we're placing with them. But we've got a couple of clients who are mid-size to larger, and they like to use tools like that. And it's not a make or break when it comes to hiring, which I think is important, but more like, okay, where do they fit in? You know, in architecture, a lot of times you have different studios who do different types of work. And they're like, okay, we'll give them this test and see what studio they fit best in, what personalities will mesh well. And I think that's important and pretty cool to figure out, you know, where they'll excel within the organization.
Yeah, because I mean, like even the Enneagram, what I know about it, right? And it can be very, like you being a type 3, very driven, but there could be somebody who's, I think it's type 8, who can be very kind of dominant, more, I think, correlate to the D in the disc profile, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes abrasive and,
Yeah, the challenger. I think that's
yeah,
number 8.
yeah, like they move things forward, right? They're an excellent business driver, but sometimes need to be kept in check in terms of how they come across to other people, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, it can be, so, and then there's like one of the numbers for Enneagram, I know one is kind of like they can have the same right experiences, or they can have worked like in different, maybe in recruiting in this case, but they have really different right drivers, the pace that they move at, right? uh
Right.
and I guess that's why I was kind of asking about if you or any of your clients, right, have also made a determination or kind of aim or assess
Mhm.
those personality traits to see what suits best, right, the goals that they are trying to achieve and the culture they're looking to build.
Yeah, I really like using DISC assessment for leadership positions because you want to have a well-rounded leadership at the top. And, you know, if Edwin and I are both D and then we hire someone else that's D, you know, how do you get on the same playing field or same level as some of your employees who don't think that way? Like you're saying, maybe they are more methodical and they move a little bit more slowly.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you're high D or high like D, you're very direct. Very influential. And I will say, like, I'm not your detail-oriented person. I'm more of the big vision. If you want me to do admin tasks, it's going to be terrible.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do them well. I cannot deal with the details.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like, it's good to know those things about yourself and make sure you've got someone on your team who can pay attention to the details. If you come up with a great idea, are they reading all the, I think everyone should read the contracts, anything you sign, but are they reading all the finer details of things you're putting together? Are they organized? Are they, filing that stuff where you need it to be so you can find it later? You know,
Mhm.
I know what I'm good at, but I know what I'm not good at too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's I guess a part of knowing yourself, like getting to know yourself and getting that
Yeah.
clarity. So, what would you say has been the biggest, um, like the best win or success, right, in you pivoting from being an employee to going, and owning your own company, and what has been the biggest challenge, especially if as people might be sitting with similar dilemma, right? Maybe find themselves in a similar point. And
Yeah, I think the biggest win has been the success that we've had. Last year we had a great year. This has been a really great year. So I feel like we're on the right track. We're always like, we're doing something right. So that's been huge. And I'm sure we'll hit tough times too. But right now we're just trying to think positive and move ahead, and everything has been great. And the hardest or biggest challenge has been the people issues. Like I said before, working from home, I didn't manage people. So now managing some of those things and conflict resolution and change management, that stuff has been tougher and drains me.
Yeah, especially like as you move fast and you're like you like
Right.
clearly see and you're like, I can
I'm
definitely.
big on efficiency. So when stuff like that happens, I'm like, well, now we have to slow down because we have to deal with this issue that I don't want to deal with. And I'm not getting anything done that I should be doing because I'm dealing with something, petty or,
Yeah.
there's going to be conflict in sales for sure. People will step on other people's toes. We're trying to build a culture where that doesn't happen often. But the couple times that it has, you want to, have a great resolution
Mhm.
and make sure everything is fair. And so it takes time to think through it. I don't enjoy that.
And how do you, as a business owner, right, you have the freedom now, uh, supposedly, right, a little more to kind of how you want to address it, and especially if you're recognizing in yourself that that drains you. How have you, like, are you bringing other kind of supplementing your team or kind of some of the lead, I know it's you and another owner, but I'm sure you have team leads, you mentioned the operations person. Are you identifying others who have that strength, or are you still at the stage where you're kind of jumping in those?
We're still at this stage where we're kind of jumping in those situations, but we do have a director of operations that we hired last January. So now she's taking on more and more of that as we go.
Mhm.
Um, Edwin and I are still working owners, so we're still very much involved.
Yeah.
Um, and probably will be for a little while, but yes, I'm hoping more of that kind of stuff will go to our director and we
Yeah.
won't have to get involved because as we grow and scale, you can't be involved in every, situation.
Yeah. No, definitely. And how do you incorporate the coaching into your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've just started offering coaching as well. So on our website, we talk about it sometimes in LinkedIn posts and things like that. And we'll have people who just do a Google search and come to us who are looking for coaching. So then we try to diagnose, first off, do they want a recruiter to help them find a job, or do they need coaching? And if they need coaching, then we've got somebody on our team that we funnel those folks to. And she's a great coach and coaches them.
And I think so. This is a good point, and maybe you can just briefly speak about it. I think there's a perception. Many people think that recruiters also are equipped to give career advice.
So we can give advice for our specific industry. We can tell you what we're seeing every day, but
Mhm.
I can't tell you if I'm working with you as a recruiter what you should do.
Mhm.
If you're toying with, well, should I get more into management or should I get outside the industry as a recruiter? We're not going to advise on that. We've got
Yeah.
clients with openings that we're trying to fill, and that's why we're calling you. So if it's not what you want to do, then you have to be upfront with us. Otherwise, we're sending your resume to that client, and more than likely, we're going to get an interview. And so now you're interviewing for a position you don't want.
Yeah.
So as a coach, they can help you figure out what you want to do,
Mhm.
where you want to be in 3 to 5 years and things like that.
Yeah. No, good point. Yeah. And how I know you also have a podcast. Can you tell people a little more how they can connect with you, find you?
Yeah, I have a podcast called Wine After Work, which I started, I guess it was 2021. So it's been 2 years now. I love talking to women such as yourself, who are working and balancing, motherhood a lot of times, or that mid-level career person, and entrepreneurs as well. So primarily you'll hear me talking to women entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
whether they're just starting out or they've had a business for many years. And I have a lot of fun with it. So that's Wine After Work. We're on Spotify and Apple and everywhere podcasts are. And then our website is mycareercollective.com. And we're doing a total rebrand, which is really exciting. So If you check it out now, you'll see that it's a bit different than it will be in January. So that's been an exciting project that we've been working on. And then I'm on LinkedIn all the time. My LinkedIn is forever up during the workday.
Absolutely, I understand. So I will also link these, your website and your podcast and your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So people can just click on any one of those and check it out. At the end, as we are wrapping up the conversation, I wanted to ask you, what inspiration, right? Kind of what thought or idea of encouragement would you leave people with, especially if they're, sitting with the questions, right? And kind of on their way to gain more clarity on what's next. It's kind of they feel, okay, that something is missing, but it can be quite, but you kind of years go by, you're busy with your work, and it's kind of also paying you, and it's easy just to stay right in the same cycle, but something inside of you, right, feels like something is missing and that you are meant for more.
Yeah. I would say at first, just acknowledge you are meant for more, and that you're capable of doing it and making the change. I feel like God has given everyone gifts and talents to use. And so don't question your gifts and talents, figure out maybe what they are, but you are capable of doing more and capable of making a change. And then start talking to people and just start taking the smallest baby steps, whether that's today I'm going to read one chapter of this book or listen to this one podcast or call this one person who I think could help me,
Mm-hmm. And how would you how can people know, or what are the key things they should ask themselves to figure out whether they should be looking for another job or starting something on their own?
I think get really real with yourself and ask yourself questions like, okay, look at your budget. Are you able to start up a company, and do you have money saved up to live off of? Do you need an investor? Do you need to take a loan from the bank? What's going to make it work for your family? Because you'll have a lot more peace of mind if you know financially we'll be okay. I think that's a tough burden if you're opening a business. At least that's what I found with my first business. And then the second is, having that security, a little bit of security there, because there are so many unknowns. And then why not start small while you're working for your current employer? If it's not a conflict of interest, who says you can't start doing some things on the side?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Bryce. Well, thank you so much. It was
Yeah,
so
this was fun.
you, and I definitely encourage people to check out your podcast, listen to the conversations that you have with other women. I think you had somebody in electrical or engineering
Yes.
last conversation, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.